4th of December, waiting for my tea to brew. Yeah, you can hear the washing machine in the background. This is Sunday, and as ever, look, a new teapot. I am so happy. The other blue one got so encrusted and full of flavour that I had to suspend its use. Tea shortly. I'll tell you what I'm reading at the moment. And for those of you that have the opportunity, if you get Spotify, you can, well, I'm not so much reading it as I'm listening to it, as I may have said before. I'm reading Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. And I'm seeing, besides the example, obviously, of life in Dickensian England, I'm seeing, despite the example of the rich in charge of everything, despite the example of the ruling class and the working class, the labouring class, maybe even in Great Expectations, the rise of the once middle class, yeah, because I think the middle class are disappearing now, yeah. I think you have the ruling class and everybody else. Now, you might not think that if you are in different circumstances to me. You might not think it, but I think you're already beginning to discover that you weren't maybe quite so secure as a middle class person. Many of you are now beginning, probably for the first time in your lives, sadly, having to claim state benefit. I bet that's hard. I know it is. And I'll bet to you that's a shock. Well, I'm sorry that you have to do this, okay? But what I want to go back to from Great Expectations is a character who is called Mr Jaggers. And essentially, Jaggers is a cad, as they would have been called back in those days. He's like an acute. Well, he's a solicitor. He's a barrister, and he jabs his finger at people. That's so good. When Pip first meets him, he jabbed his finger at him. Yeah. And he's the sort of person, obviously, then, who cross-questions everybody, who tries to read into statements all kinds, all manner of things, yeah? And who lives very richly in wealthy circumstances, wealthy apartments in the better parts of London, who has servants, yeah? Who is respected, but at his heart, the man is cold, businesslike, unfeeling. Now, I'm not saying by any means that all people who are barristers and lawyers and whatever who are like that, yep. But what you see in Great Expectations, well, there are sort of almost like two stories developing. Pip is actually brought up by Joe Gargery and his wife in the marshes around Kent and whatever, Essex, yeah. And Joe is a blacksmith. He's a man who earns a living with his hands. He's a good, decent man. He speaks in a manner sort of similar to what maybe even some working people speak today, yeah. But he has about him the dignity of his labour. He owns his forge, he owns his tools, and he's a good man. He's a fair, a decent and a kind man, yeah? And Pip first is apprenticed to Joe. He talks about Joe's dusky complexion and his strong arms, yeah? And then, of course, through his benefactor, Pip goes to seek his fortune in London. pursue his great expectation. There is, of course, his relationship with this rather cruel Estella, who I every time I read of Estella, a little bit of me thinks of Priti Patel, yeah? Cold, calculating, unfeeling, vicious, yeah? Bullying, yeah? I think a little bit of Estella, although there is more to Estella than you might actually think, yeah? But what I'm getting at here is that although, yes, I can't say that the Tories have actually taken us back to Dickensian Britain. 1 second, just while I pour some tea, yeah? Although I can't say they've definitely taken us back to Dickensian Britain, it is that massive, unequal society that they want to see recreated. I'll just walk and get my milk. You can hear the washing machine if you need anything to listen to while I'm away from the camera. Yeah? It's that massive inequality. It's that knowledge of social class. It's that idea that everybody should know their place. You are a criminal of the highest order. You should know your place. And I am a hanging judge, and I will put on my black cap as a hanging judge. In fact, in a chapter I've just been listening to, they describe going through Newgate Jail. Pip is waiting for a visit to London by his esteemed Estella. And he and one of the other clerks wander through Newgate Jail. And it's horrific. The conditions, obviously, in which the prisoners are kept, yeah, are horrific. And they would have been in Dickens's time, yeah? Of course they would have been. But is it not so typical of not just the ruling class, not just those with loads of money and property and all that lot, is it not so typical of them that their attitude has come so far down in society that we actually have ordinary people going, well, I think it's terrible, actually, old chap. I think they should be fed on bread and water. I think they should be experimented on because, after all, they have committed crimes and we have new vaccines. We need testing. We should experiment on them. I do not believe that they should be properly fed. I think they should actually be flogged to pay for their crime every day of their life. Jails, prisons should be rotting cesspits, and that would be a deterrent to criminals, wouldn't it? Yeah. Society is increasingly made up of that kind of an opinion. The society is increasingly made up not of people who think actually perhaps we can judge what kind of a society we are, what kind of a world we live in, by the way we treat our prisoners. Yeah? I'm not saying that some people don't have to go to prison, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that prison shouldn't be used as a punishment. I'm not saying it's part of justice. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is the brutality has always been there at the top. Coming towards conclusion. Yep. Let me just take a little sip. Look, and my concluding bit is going to be about him. Fox, Mr. Fox, yeah? The fantastic Mr. Fox. For Fox's sake, tally-ho, old chap, stop hunting. Stop releasing packs of dogs to tear foxes and their cubs apart. Get off your horses. Strip off your red coats. Take off your boots. And if you're feeling a bit like Boris Johnson, I imagine you've got a little semi-sexual thrill out of it, haven't you? Yeah? A little semi-sexual thrill, maybe a little semi-something else out of it, Boris, yeah? What disgusting people. And what portrays this divide between the rich rulers and everybody else in society, more than their entitled, jumped-up little selves on their horses, running through the fields, destroying fences, gates, property, causing mayhem, and above all, as they sound their hunting horns, tally-ho, tally-ho, getting to the final death scene, the place of violence, the place of blood and gore, and above all, spectacle, red blood on white jodhpurs. Do you know they even have a tradition they call blooding? And this goes back to a little of the kind of kinky sexualness behind it. They find a young girl, should be the youngest girl perhaps on the hunt, one of the hunt followers. You follow a hunt, you follow on foot, or if you're one of the local workers who goes, yeah, well, so I work for his master, mate. I just I do the quad bites, mate. Yeah, me and my terriers, we like do the quad bites, don't we? Yeah, quad bites, boom, yeah. Or you see, you find the youngest girl, and you get the fox's brush, the fox's tail. By the way, if anybody ever went to Leicester Polytechnic all those years ago, remember, I used to edit a student magazine called Fox Tail. Yeah, you get the fox's tail, yeah, because Leicester's the place of the fox, of course, and you blood the youngster, you wipe it, almost like, yeah, perhaps the same youngster had been ashed on Ash Wednesday with the ashes from the burned palm crosses. Perhaps the local vicar had done that. And then perhaps the same local vicar takes care of the fox's tail and bloods this young girl. Stop hunting. Stop it. Stop it. You vile, brutal, vicious, despicable human beings. I am with the words of Oscar Wilde on hunting. The unspeakable in pursuit of the uneatable. Have a great New Year, folks. Bye.